Okay, we're live.
Awesome.
Oh dear. I thought it was
Hello,
Memorex.
everybody.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to my stream. We have with
Ew.
us we have with us today, we've got Damien. Say hello, Damien.
How's it going?
And we've got Scott underneath him, who is his future is so bright.
Gotta wear shades. But they are cheap sunglasses, so.
And of course, as always, my friend and yours, Thrash.
It is an honor and a privilege.
It is as definitely a honor and privilege to have you.
That's what I meant. No. So good to see you. Oh, and I got one more on the sunglasses. Scotty, do you wear them at night?
I actually have to, badly.
So I can watch you live and weave your storylines. Yes, I
Of
know.
course, yes.
I had to. I couldn't.
Well done, well done. Yeah, my these are prescription. My regular glasses are going in for new lenses, and so these are the prescription lenses that I have. So
And unfortunately, he is completely blind without his glasses, so.
yes,
Really?
yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty dang blind if I take my glasses off. I can't see anything. I would say I'm blind as a
Oh.
bat, but bats aren't actually blind.
Like, I love this, but everything, just like this little distance between me and my monitor, is you guys are all blurry. So maybe this is a better way to watch
How many
us.
fingers am I holding up, Scott?
There goes the monetization. And then
Sorry. That was my
Don't
index
monetize
it.
finger.
I know.
That was my index finger.
and then I cannot read any of our titles at all. And so yeah, it's that bad.
I find my arms just aren't long enough anymore. Like, I used to be able, if I held something out here, but now I'm like, nope. So that's why I got the cheetahs.
That's where I'm getting to. That's why I have to wear the cheaters to read things up close. Of course, things on the computer monitor are fine, but I have these for when I need things up close. So
Very distinguished,
Yes.
sir.
thank you.
I just
Like, I can't read my
look
watch anymore.
really close. I bring them in really close.
Okay, well let's go ahead and say hi to some people in the comments. I already see a few people have gotten here. First of all, we got channel member Indy Spoats. Hello, Indy.
Indy!
What's up, my brother?
We've got Nicole Baker's here. Hello,
Hey,
Nicole.
Any relation?
And yes, spaghetti westerns do count as westerns.
Yes.
They
I'm
better.
sure somebody's going to bring them up, and I know exactly who.
Yeah. They may have been shot out east, but they count.
Let's see. Danny Staten is here from South Carolina. Hello, Danny Staten.
Greetings.
What's up, Danny?
My father-in-law Warren is here.
Hey, Warren.
Hey,
Or father,
Warren.
stepfather, not father-in-law.
Can I call you Peace? No one. Really? No
War and
one's going to laugh
Peace,
at War and
yeah,
Peace.
Ah,
I mean, I got it. It doesn't mean I'm going to laugh at it.
That one I did not get.
bum.
I'm waiting for my coffee to kick in.
My good friend Michael DeCosimo is here.
Michael?
He's always
Michael?
updating me on the movies he's watching. I love it. Okay, so before we get started, we are covering westerns, and I know that seems weird for a sci-fi channel to cover westerns, but honestly, I think science fiction owes a lot to westerns.
Yes.
That whole idea of the frontier spirit. I mean, that's what Western. I mean, a lot of sci-fi does that. A lot of sci-fi goes into that very naturally. That's why you get things like Star Trek and Firefly and all that stuff.
Outland.
Outland, of course. Yeah.
Westworld.
Westworld is a great
Westworld.
one. Yeah. So yeah, that's why. And also, like, in my own personal history, growing up with films, I've already talked about to Damien in the green room about this, but when I was growing up, my parents used to watch a ton of westerns, like all the time, and I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't like them. I thought they were boring, and I didn't get it. And then when I went to film school in college, I actually, because I went to the wrong school, I went to UF, where the number of actual film students was like in the double digits, maybe. I had to take whatever courses they offered. And one of the courses they offered was Western films, like Westerns in film. And I didn't want to take it, but I didn't have much choice, so I had to. And I'm really glad I did, because through that class, I grew to like really understand and appreciate what a Western is and what it means and why they're so important. And ever since then, I've watched them all the time now. I think they're fantastic. They're great. So yeah. And since this is my channel, I'm going to go ahead and get started, because the one I want to talk about is the movie that thematically I consider to be the quintessential Western, like the movie that says everything that the classic Western tries to say. And it's kind of like when we talked about Dr. Zhivago in the war movies, and how Dr. Zhivago, if you look at it from a allegorical point of view, it all makes sense. Like if you think of Julie Christie's character, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, Laura, as Russia, it all falls together. This movie is exactly the same in that regard. The movie I'm talking about is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Good one.
If you look at the female lead, I can't remember the actress's name, but the character's name is, I've got it written down, Hallie. Hallie is America.
Vera Miles.
Vera Miles, thank you. I should have known that. Anyway, yeah. Hallie is America. And you've got, okay, for those who don't know, the story of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is you've got Jimmy Stewart plays a lawyer, Rance, who's coming to this unincorporated territorial city called Shinbone. And he wants to basically civilize the West. He wants to bring law and order to the West. Without using a gun, just using law books. I mean, that's what he comes to town carrying only law books. And of course, the very first thing that happens is he gets robbed, he gets beaten up, he gets left for dead in the middle of the frontier by a man named Liberty Valance, which...
Played by Lee Marvin.
Played by Lee Marvin, of course. And the name Liberty Valance is kind of on the nose, if you know what a valance is, but we'll get to that later. And you've got John Wayne, who plays Tom Donovan, Tom Donovan, who is basically your white hat. He's, rancher turned gunslinger, who basically is the law and order, but he's not the sheriff. Like, the sheriff is just Andy Devine, so he's not very effectual. And
He has a great voice, though.
I love Andy Devine. You kidding?
Yeah.
He's great.
He's funny.
Love his Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, you've got, just to boil it down, you've got John Wayne as like the stereotypical white hat of the West, of law and order through a gun. And then you've got Liberty Valance, who's the black hat of the West, which is just anarchy. And you've got Rance, Jimmy Stewart, who's trying to bring civilized law and order to the wilderness, and to take unincorporated land and literally like give it statehood. Like, he eventually fights for statehood. That's kind of the thing. And John Wayne's character and Jimmy Stewart's character are both in love with Vera Miles, because they both. And Vera Miles finds both of them appealing. She likes the rugged, individualistic law and order of John Wayne, but she also likes the noble ideals and almost naive sense of justice that you get from Jimmy Stewart, and like who's going to win in the end. And I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but it is about how the West was won. Like it's about how actual civilization came to the West, how the wilderness became a garden, to quote the actual movie.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of trying to say everything that needs to be said about the Western, I think it comes real close to doing that. So that's why I wanted to bring it up first before anybody else talked about it. It's one of my absolute favorite Westerns. I could watch it anytime. And yeah, Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne. What more do you want? And it's, of course, John Ford, obviously.
That was actually my grandfather's favorite Western too.
It's a great movie.
A huge Western fan. That's like, if he could watch nothing but, something on TV, it'd always be a Western. If there's a Western on, he was going to find it.
Right.
And then I'd be forced to watch it when I was there.
So, anybody else have anything to say about the man who shot Liberty Valance?
I do when I'm torn because I don't want to give spoilers, but I think I'm going to have to.
It's okay
Um,
if you spoil it. It's fine.
Okay. The thing about that movie that always got me, there's this bizarre scene at the end where John Wayne, having made his, I guess you would say, existential choice, he goes home and he burns it to the ground. Literally, just he destroys everything almost out of some rage, but it's not rage. Because I put a lot of thought into this. It is the essence of the new world versus the old. The very sad message in this is yes, there will be progress, and yes, one could argue that this progress will make a better world, but you can't have both worlds. You are
Right.
literally, not figuratively, you are literally going to have to destroy the old one, and there's going to be collateral damage. Just like the Great Plains Wars. You can't have the ranchers and the homesteaders. Initially, the ranchers were shown as the bad guys because they wouldn't let these people make homes for themselves. No, they needed to do their cattle drives, or they couldn't provide beef for the entire East Coast.
Right.
Well, guess what, guys? You lose. We need to expand, and we need to drop more homes, and those homes are going to like push out whatever there before. And while it's never really dealt with in the movie, another group that was also negatively impacted by this were, of course, the indigenous. So I just thought it was a very, can we say, discreet way of showing that when the West was won, sadly, the Old West was put to rest.
Yeah, and
here
I think-
I thought it was just because he was drunk, but you know,
No, but
It
he's-
was, but there's a message behind it.
He's committing the ultimate self-sacrifice in the end. And like I said, if you look at it from an allegory, it's the Old West basically allowing itself to be killed. It's allowing itself to move on. And yeah.
and that is a common theme in Western movies. Is the homesteaders moving in are usually seen as the good guys or the underdogs, and the ranchers are the rich and
Yeah, it's definitely going to come up a
powerful.
few more times,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah,
yes, yes,
I think in
yes.
McClintock may have been the only one where they really didn't show it that way. They kind of saw it as a balance, but that's we'll get to that movie, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So,
So-
Scott,
What about
got
you, Scott?
anything?
Have you
No,
actually seen The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance?
No, that one I actually have not seen. So
That was good. I
Yeah,
saw.
that one-
I'm embarrassed to say this, but I saw it for the first time. I remember seeing it last night.
Oh,
even
wow.
even though I know I've seen parts of that movie before, because while I was watching it, I was like, I've seen this, but I know I've seen this part before. It's probably from like a half dozen times that I was probably forced to watch it as a child with my grandfather. So, I think I've maybe seen a piece or two of it since, but just in going through the channels kind of thing. But
He also, like, John Wayne's character, Tom Donovan, if you're watching the movie and you don't, like, see the twist coming, which you should, but if you don't, when, like, okay, fine, let's just spoil it. When Liberty Valance gets shot, immediately John Wayne's character seems to just go ballistic for no reason. He seems to just lose his mind. And if you don't know what the twist is, it comes out of the blue. But if you know what the twist is, it all makes perfect sense. It's a great way of using a twist, even though you should definitely see it coming.
yeah, I
Definitely.
definitely saw it coming. But yeah.
Okay, so enough about
I can't
that
see anything, so I didn't see anything coming.
I see nothing. I see nothing.
one. All right, so let's just go in order. D, you.
All right, mine's a new one, but it's a really good one. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, I highly recommend watching this because it's a collection of 6 short stories, and it's called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Came out in 2018. You can catch it on, your
Netflix.
Netflix. And it's got basically an all-star cast. It's got Tim Blake Nelson, Liam Neeson, Tom Waits, or Watts, however you want to pronounce that. James Franco, Glenda Gleeson, Bill Heck, Joe Kazan, Clancy Brown,
Wow.
so on and so forth. Saul Rubinek, so on and so forth. And so it's broken down into 6 different stories. They're not related in the movie at all. There's nothing, at least not that I can tell. But it's broken down into 6 stories. One's called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, who's a gunslinger who meets his match, basically. And I'm not going to go into the details, but there's a lot of singing in it. That's why it's called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It's kind of that first one's a musical, basically. And it's very entertaining and very funny. And then the second one's called Near Algodons, which is about a bank robbery, which again is funny. There's a lot of humor in all of this. And basically the guy has the worst luck, the bank robber, through the whole thing. Worst luck and best luck, strangely enough. But in the end, it doesn't work out for him. And then there's one called Meal Ticket with Liam Neeson, which is very sad, but also it's just kind of brutal in the end, about an impresario and his armless, legless talent. And what happens to him in the end is not pretty. But anyway, and then there's All Gold Canyon, which is an old prospector played by Tom Waits, whatever. How do you pronounce that? Watts?
I think it's Waits.
Tom
Yeah,
Waits. It's pronounced Waits, but I've heard it pronounced Watts before. So anyway, who's an old prospector. I mean, old in the movie, and strikes strikes it rich, basically finds a good pocket, which is what he calls it through the whole thing, which is really fun. It's, again, has its funny moments, has tender moments, and so on and so forth. Anyway, somebody tries to steal it from him. I'm not going to tell you what happens. That just, it's good. The Gal Who Got Rattled is about a wagon train, and a little love thing that happens there. And, there's a lot of tragedy in all of these stories, by the way. That's like one Greek tragedy after another, almost, on some of them at least.
A lot of Westerns play out that way.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. And then the last one is The Mortal Remains, where basically takes place in a coach ride with 3 strangers and then 2 guys that are bounty hunters and a dead body. And the stories that are told and the different characters involved in that one is quite interesting. That one's got Saul Rubinek in it, and he plays an English or a Frenchman, and he's kind of he does a good job in that one. So, but overall, it's just it's a bunch of short stories. They're all very, very Western in their themes, and it kind of covers the full gamut of what you see in Western movies. Each one of these short stories
feels like a
in and of
template,
itself. Yeah. It's like playing homage to every kind of Western you can think of, from the fastest gun in the West meeting his match kind of thing, and the prospectors and settlers and so on and so forth, and bounty hunters, all of the above. It's all in there, and it's just I think they did an excellent job with that movie, and I would highly recommend it to anybody that hasn't seen it yet. So,
What's this one called again?
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Because I have not seen it, but it sounds fascinating.
Oh, it's a fun movie to watch. It is. It has its, like I said, it's got its funny moments. There's comedy in it throughout. But it's not necessarily a comedy, but there's lots of situations where you end up where you're like, yeah, that was funny. Even though that ended very badly for him, but that's still friggin' funny, So
yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
When I was looking at all the different streaming platforms, looking for other Westerns, I saw it on Netflix because Netflix had about 4 Westerns.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't
They
actually
have a
watch
few.
it.
You have to look for them, but they have a few on there. Yeah.
It's one that I've wanted to watch. Like Tim Blake is like Tim Blake Nelson is a phenomenal actor. Like, and there's that, but that one I have not seen yet. Like, again, we tend to watch. My wife and I tend to watch movies together, so like getting time to be able to watch particular. Movies or whatever, but no, that's one I really, really wanted to watch.
Stephen Root is in it too, and he is a hoot. The guy that played,
I know Stephen
in
Root,
Office Space. What's his
Stapler.
name? He's a hoot in that movie. He's only in one part of, like, each one of the stories has its own set of actors, and they do not repeat.
Right.
So it's basically it's an all-star cast of mostly A-list actors in there, and they all do a bang up job. So, it's a good movie. So,
Okay, before we move on to the next
Mhm.
one, I just want to address the comments just to know
Okay.
you, I'm here.
Mhm.
Nicole Baker said, "I thought you said Weast," which, if you get that joke, that's an excellent joke. Um, let's see. Slasher Fred is here. Hello, Slasher. He's going way back with the old great train robbery. Yeah, that's extremely classic Western. Um, let's see. Keith E. I think he's leaving. So bye,
Oh,
Keith.
take care, Keith.
Yeah,
See ya.
always good to see you. Oh crap. Looks like Nicole Baker is leaving as well. Oh no, we're losing my audience. But Nicole usually only comes in here on breaks, so like I understand. It's fine. Thanks for showing up.
Like
Uh,
the stream.
like of course. And my friend Tristan is here. I'm sure he's going to tell us about a kung fu western. Let's see. Oh, he's already got one. Let's see. Something called Millionaires Express, aka Shanghai Express, starring Sammo Hung and other names. Wow. Famous heroes and villain actors throughout Kung Fu cinema. That sounds epic. I'll have to look into it. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the comments, but I will be reading them. I promise.
So, one thing I wanted to mention is the Man Who Shot Liberty, Liberty Balance is on Amazon Prime, but also if you have a subscription to MGM Plus or Paramount Plus, you can watch it there. But when you were talking about it, I can't remember who said it, but someone said the Apple Dumpling Gang is a better movie than this. And I'm not sure if they were talking about like the Man Who Shot, but it was fantastic. And I'm adding it to both the Apple Dumpling Gang and Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again to our list of movies and where to find them. And they're both on Disney Plus. And so that was brilliant. And also I found on YouTube The Great Train Robbery. So I'll add that to our list too.
Well, yeah, that's public domain. It's so old. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, so I'm adding it so that
Milton. Milton was the name of Stephen Root's character in Office Space.
Yep. That's it.
I'm
Okay,
gonna burn this place down.
Thrash, your turn now.
Oh, Scott hasn't gone yet.
Oh, you want Scott to go first? Okay.
Well, I thought
We'll
we were
go
going in a
clockwise.
loop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Let's do it that way. I don't mind.
We'll do
Got
it live. You know what? I'm gonna go a little bit offbeat and go a little bit older, and I'm also gonna throw people for a loop.
Because they expect Dances with Wolves.
right. But we talked about that last time. We talked about that last and I think that's more of a war movie than a western.
Wyatt Earp then? Is it going to be Wyatt Earp?
So what I'm gonna go with is Blazing Saddles.
Of
course.
Yes. It's
Yeah,
on
I
my
knew
list
somebody
too,
had
yeah.
to mention it.
Yes,
Because
that's
it's
a good
one of the ultimately best movies out there. One of the best movies ever made. It is a hilarious Western, comedy. The use of particular words that we're not allowed to use because this will get shot down. But in a really well and tasteful way, right? To kind of bring a point. And the fact that there's a black sheriff again is brilliant. And then again, one of the greatest scenes is the farting, the bean scenes and stuff like that. But you've got Gene Wilder, Cleavon Little, Madeline Kahn, Harvey Korman, Alex Carreras playing Mongo is just
Oh yeah, Mongo.
God, one of
He
the
punches the horse. I love it.
Oh yeah, just knocks it right out.
Mongo
Former
just on
NFL,
in Game of Life.
right? Mel Brooks. It's you can watch it free on Pluto TV. If you haven't,
It's just only Pawn in Game of Life.
yeah. And so it's just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it, it's free on Pluto TV with some commercial breaks and stuff like that. And if you have seen it, watch it again. Like,
Of course.
Great movie.
Yeah,
I have it on Blu-ray, so
yeah, I like I think I'm actually gonna like, go and watch it with my girls this Christmas break and stuff like that, just because
Yeah.
it's hilarious. It's great. So
have
The thing I
whole
love
Mel
about-
Brooks- Oh, go ahead.
The thing I love about Mel Brooks when he deconstructs a genre like
Mhm.
that is that yes, he's making fun of the genre, but at the same time you can tell that he loves it. It's like a
Mhm.
love letter to westerns
Yes.
at the same time that it's making fun of
Yeah.
westerns. And I think I don't know anybody else who can get away with it as well as Mel Brooks. I love it. It's such a great movie.
Maybe the first Austin Powers, the first
Maybe.
one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I can see that.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I have polluted my eldest daughter's mind with Mel Brooks movies. I have the full box
Good.
set.
oh yeah,
so-
yeah.
The only one I can get my son to watch is Spaceballs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she loves that one. That and
Nothing wrong with it.
She doesn't
Robin
look
Hood Men in
Jewish.
Tights. She likes
Oh,
that
yes.
one too,
Oh,
which they
yes.
quote. They give a shout out to Blazing Saddles in that with a black sheriff.
Right.
Yeah.
It worked in Blazing Saddles.
They also Robert Ridgely. I believe it was his last film. Robert Ridgely, who plays the Boris Karloff.
Oh,
speaking
right,
agent.
yeah.
They brought him back for Men in Tights so he could play
Yeah.
the same character again.
Yep.
Nice. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on commercial TV from 9 to 9:10.
It's a joke.
Oh,
It's been highly redacted.
gotcha. I
Took him a minute.
Excuse me while I whip this
Sorry.
out.
no.
I used to have on my old desktop in college, whenever I would like turn it on, like you could have like a powering on sound. That was the powering on sound on my computer.
Nice.
Oh,
Crazy.
great movie.
You're on your own, son.
Yeah. It's fantastic. So
It's an amazing film. It really is.
and Gene Wilder, I'm a Hawkeye fan. Went to the University of Iowa, and so he's an Iowa Hawkeye. So I always
Oh.
Fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like how every time anybody brings up Vincent Price, I have to mention he's from St. Louis. It's just required.
St. Louis will mess you up, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
Clearly.
I was perfectly normal before I moved here.
Right.
No, what messed Eric up was working on It's a Small World and listening to that for 8 hours, and so no, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
dear
Yeah,
God.
that's not even funny. That's true.
What in the central ring of hell is that?
As long as you didn't take all your clothes off on It's a Small World and go
Oh, yeah.
climbing around.
Crazy.
No,
People- These
We're
kids,
gonna
some people's children.
we're gonna talk about that at our next episode. So
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just had to throw it in there. Just had to.
yeah.
Oh, so
Okay,
yeah,
Crash. Now it's your turn.
awesome.
It's all you.
I couldn't decide if I wanted to go really like loopy for the first one, but I decided I'm actually going to go something traditional, and I have to open this one on so many levels. I'm going to open with The Shootist,
Ah,
John Wayne's
nice.
last film,
Yes.
because this just works on so many levels. It's about an aging gunslinger dying of cancer. He was actually dying of
Dying of
cancer when he was
cancer.
making it.
Right.
And it was sort of now I know opinion is divided on whether or not Charlton Heston knew that Edward G. Robinson was dying in Soylent Green. I like to think he did know, but regardless, John Wayne definitely knew he was dying. And this movie was basically a way of saying goodbye to all his friends, and that's why the cast is comprised of pretty much everybody he had actually worked with over the years. You got Jimmy Stewart, of course. You got Scatman Crothers, Richard Boone, who I believe was also ill when he made it. He lasted for a few more years, but I believe Richard Boone was actually also fighting his own health battles at the time. And it's, again, when we're talking about the modernization of the West, it takes place in the early 1900s, and the Old West is literally evaporating before everyone's eyes. So it's about the death of the Old West as well as the death of this Western lawman. Yet he wants his legacy, the this sense of Western self-reliance and Western justice to survive. Hence, the Ron Howard character. Oh, and by the way, I believe John worked with Rance Howard, Howard's
Father.
father, Ron Howard's father, in earlier stuff, and that's the connection there.
He's gonna make a cameo appearance on the video that drops in just 2 hours
You're
on my
kidding,
channel.
really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. But on top of everything else, it's a great film. It's very well put together. I love this film, and I could think of no more touching send off to the Duke than the Shootist. I think it just worked on levels.
Yeah, I mean, even outside of the meta-ness of the movie, like, it's still a powerful, emotionally, like, draining movie. But once you know, like, everybody knew John Wayne was dying, and John Wayne knew that he was dying, and once you know that going in, it just becomes that much more powerful. It's like an exponential increase.
Well, and one of the things, like I know like Westerns kind of continued on, but like I to me, like the quintessential Western actor. I think that if you know anything about Westerns, like the first name that should come to mind is John Wayne.
Yeah, anybody who
Right.
argues with you on that is just wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like, you know, not only is it like a movie about the dying of the West, right? And the dying of, you know, and John Wayne and what have you, but it also like the dying of a Western era, right? Because like with his death goes that era of like the, you know, whale partner, like
Yeah.
like that era of Westerns, right? And so it's meta on like so many different like layers, like yeah, and so I think it's, you know, it's an amazing love tribute, right? And,
Yeah, because I mean,
love
for
letter.
decades prior to that movie, the Westerns had been the dominant genre. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't even there wasn't even any competition. Like Westerns were everywhere. They were easy, cheap to make.
Yeah.
Everybody loved them. Kids were growing up on them. Adults
yeah,
loved
yeah.
them. You know, like they were just everywhere. They saturated pop culture. They were in
And I mean,
for
if you
20 or 30
remember-
years what superheroes are today.
Absolutely,
So,
exactly.
And if you remember, like, you know, furniture design from the late 60s through the 70s and the wagon wheel, you know,
Oh, yeah.
chandeliers and the, you know, the dark spindle-legged furniture and the, you know,
the stuff you can still find at Hobby
Yeah,
Lobby today. yeah.
the couches with the wagon, you know, train, you know, print on them and stuff like that. It permeated culture too. It wasn't just, you know, the movies. It was like everywhere. It was in your home, you know. It would be like having a
My
couch
dad wore a
today-
cowboy hat and boots, so you
like
know.
having a couch today with like superheroes printed on it or something, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what that was.
Oh, so are we done with the Shootist? I mean, such a good movie, and I could talk about it for a while, but I guess we should move on.
Just so that you can, just for people, you can watch it on Prime Video. If you have that a subscription to Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free there, or with your subscription, or you MGM Plus and Paramount Plus.
I will say, over the last couple of weeks, I was looking on all the streaming services for all the different Westerns I wanted to talk about. And if you want to find a John Wayne movie, just get on Amazon Prime. You'll find them. Almost every John Wayne Western is there. There's a few very notable exceptions, but most of them are there.
Yeah, they have a good selection.
Yeah.
If you like older westerns, MGM
Yeah.
Plus is a really good area too.
Cool. Oh, wow. Tristan has given me money. I like money.
Thank you.
Before I read that, let me do the thing. You know, I really need to get another clip on here. There you go.
Love
If I show any more than that, I get copyright hit. The good, the bad, and the weird. Well, that's fun. I like that.
Good,
And
weird.
Let the Bullets Fly. The latter is one of Chow Yun-fat's last films before retiring. Oh, I did not know that. I mean, I knew he retired. I didn't know that. Cool. All right. I'll have to look into those.
Ooh, Let the Bullets Fly is free on Tubi. and
Nice.
Plex. Yeah.
I love Chow Yun Fat.
Yeah.
And
So do
then
I.
the good, oh, and the good, the bad, and the weird is free on Tubi and Roku channel, or if you have an AMC Plus.
Yeah, and Chow Yun Fat, he really does feel like a Western actor. Like he does a lot of crime dramas, but even in those crime dramas, he's playing it more like he's a star in a Western. It's kind of like Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry's not really a cop. He's a Western gunslinger. Same kind of feel.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's see. Do. Oh, and Daryl Johnson is here. Hey,
Hey,
Daryl.
other brother, what's going on?
Glad you could make it. Oh, and Wim Vanderstraeten is here with a movie that I've never even heard of called Purgatory. Interesting. Supernatural Western. I do have one of those on my list. But before I get to that, I'm going to go ahead. Now, the first one I picked was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance because I thought it was like this perfect encapsulation of the mythology of the Western. So now I'm going to choose the exact opposite, and I'm going to talk about Unforgiven. Because this movie is about completely deconstructing that and completely saying that all the myths and legends of the Old West are just lies and exaggerations, and those lies and exaggerations have consequences. It's kind of like the anti-Liberty Valance. Because you've got Clint Eastwood as William Money, who's retired ex-gunslinger who like found love and found happiness on a ranch, but then his wife died and now he needs money and things are falling apart. So he goes back to that old life to just kill a couple of guys who assaulted a prostitute. And of course, like when he hears about it, he hears the exaggerated mythological version of the story that she like had her eyes cut out and all exactly all that stuff. And he brings along with him his old pal Morgan Freeman, Ned. And at this town, the name of which escapes me, Old Whiskey, I think. You've got Gene Hackman plays the sheriff. And he's a real like hard ass sheriff who believes in power through strength and example. Like you got Dumbledore shows up as a gunslinger and he just like kicks the crap out of him.
Yeah.
I forgot about
English
that.
Bob.
English Bob, yeah.
Yeah, Richard Harris. Yeah,
Richard Harris, the great Richard Harris.
Yes.
Um,
When I rewatched this recently, I was like, I'd never made that connection before, and I was like, that's Dumbledore.
my dad was a huge fan of Camelot. So like every time Richard Harris would show up on screen for anything, he'd be like, "There he is!" It's like the meme, So yeah, I knew it was Richard Harris. Anyway, from a certain point of view, the sheriff isn't exactly wrong. He's kind of in the right. He's a jerk and an asshole and a sadist, but he's kind of right. And so the movie does this thing where it's trying to blur the lines. There are no white hats and black hats. Villains are really good guys are really villains. Because if you look at it from a certain point of view, Clint Eastwood's character, William Money, is the bad guy. And he knows he's the bad guy. And he embraces that in the end. And that's how he wins the day. But he only does that because the sheriff went too far and killed Morgan Freeman, killed Ned, by basically whipping him to death.
Because all the main characters are all ex gunslingers in the
exactly.
Little
it's
Bill,
all about
who was the sheriff was an ex gunslinger, so,
right?
Yeah.
And he was even like working at deconstructing those myths when he was talking to the biographer. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's just the opposite of Liberty Valance, but it's still a great movie. I do think it's a little slow, but that's my only real complaint. The cinematography is gorgeous, though, so you can get away with a lot with that. So, yeah, Unforgiven.
This was actually the one I was going to bring up next, because it was my grandfather's second favorite movie.
Good taste.
The last new movie he saw, the last new Western movie he saw before he died, and he absolutely loved this movie. So, and it's one of my favorites as well because of how truthful it really portrays how things probably really were amongst a lot of these people. So, and one of my favorite movie lines of all times, is out of that movie, and it's a hell of a thing to kill a man. You take away everything he's got and everything he's ever gonna have.
Right.
So, yeah, and when the kid goes, "Well, I guess he had it coming," he goes, "Well, we all have it coming."
It's one of the
That's
best
yeah.
lines in all of westerns. Yeah.
So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a great movie overall. Great cinematography. It's
And
a
even
little
when
slow,
he,
yeah.
spoiler alert, kills Gene Hackman, Gene Hackman's last words are, "I don't deserve this." And Clint Eastwood says, "Deserves got nothing to do with it."
Yeah. Yeah, great movie.
Excellent movie.
Yeah, no, it was one of the first for me. It was one of the first westerns that I like, earnest westerns that I remember watching, and just like was like just fell in love with it. Like, it wasn't the first western, but it was like the first authentic, like, real western style movie. And so
Aside from Back to the Future 3, this was probably one of the first westerns I ever liked. So, as a kid, that was like what, 14 when this came out. So
Yeah, so it was like
Yeah.
92,
92,
sure, somewhere in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It won Best Picture, so I guess I
Yeah.
should know. Which is actually a rare honor. Very few westerns, believe it or not, ever won Oscars. It was just a thing. They didn't treat them seriously, kind of like how they treat superhero movies now.
Yeah, yeah,
Or sci-fi as a whole.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They don't like genres.
yeah.
No.
Unless it's a war movie for some reason, they like that.
Well, yeah.
And an
or
important
fantasy,
Yeah.
or
This is
fantasy,
in
because,
war,
like,
they like those.
Lord of the Rings, like, finally getting an Oscar or whatever, like,
Yeah.
that was like such a big thing or whatever. So yeah, no.
But it was Lord
It's-
of the Rings. I mean, you can't.
They also liked
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz, and that was like 31, 32?
Yeah.
Somewhere in
39.
there. 39.
39,
Okay,
yeah.
wow, I was way off.
Yeah,
No, when you said 30s, that's you
I,
got the decade.
I guess I was close.
the right decade would have been better than me. So
So,
Alright,
okay. Damien, your turn.
Okay, so now I got to pick one here. Hold on. I'm gonna go old on this one and go The Magnificent Seven.
Oh,
Ooh,
1960.
nice.
It's got another exchange in that movie that's one of my favorites of all time. But so it's an all-star cast. It's got Yul Brynner, Charles Bronson, Steve McQueen, James Coburn, Eli Wallach, Horst
buckled.
Buckled, Robert Vaughn, Brad Dexter, so on and so forth. There's just lots of talent in that movie. And the only person that's kind of missing from the time period would be, John Wayne.
Yeah.
It's got everybody, pretty much everybody else in there. I mean, it's got Steve McQueen, Steve McQueen. But so they, it's a damn good movie. Starts out with Yul Brynner playing Chris, and basically wanting to bury a dead native, correct? I think so.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
right.
they didn't want to bury him, and he's in this village. They didn't want to bury him in the cemetery that was full of, that was like, I guess, the crappy cemetery, but it's full of, robbers and bad men kind of thing. But they wouldn't even want to bury him there. But he takes the carriage and they fight off the people that are trying to stop him and bury him anyway. And then these people from out of town, these farmers from, I guess, down in Mexico, come from where they have a bandito that is with his little army of probably, I don't know, 100 people or so, are stealing their resources. And they're like, hey, we really need you guys to run these people out of town so that we can have a better life. And they, over some time, gather up enough people through, which surprisingly, they're like, it only pays $20, which in today's money would be like, I don't know what, 20 grand or something.
I don't know if it'd be that much, but it would be a lot. Yeah.
Well, 10 grand, maybe 10, 5,000, whatever. Somewhere.
Let's go with
not,
that.
Not going to pay a whole lot,
Right.
for what they have to do and risk their lives and so on and so forth. But they end up all like, I guess, their hearts growing 3 sizes that day kind of thing. And sorry, it's just near Christmas time. The Grinch is on my mind.
Fair enough.
So, and go down there to help. And at first everything goes pretty well, and they like the townsfolk, and then everything kind of goes shitty. And you know, they have second thoughts, get run out of town. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but it's an excellent movie. Eventually, you know, they win the day, kind of thing, and you know, get the town back to what it should be for the townsfolk. And there's a whole lot in between there, of course. And one of the things, one of the lines I was saying before that is one of my favorites, and I can't quote the line because I don't have it in front of me, and you know, that's not how memory works, really. So, or at least not mine at my age. So, you know, Charles Bronson, who's playing Bernardo, he's got these 3 kids from the village that just idolize him. They're following him around. They want to be like him. They think he's so brave, and that all these farmers and, you know, whatnot, they're all weaklings and cowards and so on and so forth. And he turns to them and he goes, I am not a brave man. Your families, your fathers are brave men, because they sweat and they work, and they, you know, they work this land, and they put down roots, and they just continue to do this day after day for you. They are brave men. I am just, you know, I'm just a gunslinger kind of thing. And, you know, and I'm not giving it justice here, or doing it justice. So
No,
you
you
watch
it's
the
very
movie.
solid.
No,
That's
that's
basically
yeah.
what. Yeah.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he's like, you know, you want to, you know, idolize somebody, idolize your parents, because they are doing the hard work, and, you know, I'm doing the easy work kind of thing. So, and it was just very poignant, and, you know, it was a very real moment in that movie that kind of, you know, helps to instead of glorifying the gunslinger, glorifies the farmers and the people putting down roots and trying to make something of that land, and raise families and so on and so forth. And it's just, I liked that message in that movie quite a bit.
Now that movie, as a Western, it felt a lot more
Mhm.
real than a lot of other
Yeah.
Westerns of the time. Like, it didn't feel as Hollywood, which is why the remake completely fails, because the remake was very Hollywood.
I have not seen the remake. I've only
It's
ever
not
seen the original.
terrible,
so-
but it's nothing compared to the
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, it's like that one. Like, I'm trying to think of like all of the cast on it. Like, what's his name that plays Star Lord and Guardians of the Chris Pine.
Chris
no,
Pratt.
Not Chris Pine.
Chris
Chris
Pratt,
Pratt.
yeah.
Thank you.
Get your
Like,
Chris's
yeah.
correct.
I know. Like, even his character was just like, I just poorly. Like, I wasn't.
only
I didn't really like it.
$470.
Always trust
way
Indy
off.
with the facts, man.
So I like, you know, I just like, I agree with you. I don't feel like, I thought it was like it's for rent or purchase. So right now I wouldn't like spend money to watch the newer one, especially when you can watch the older, just so that it's out there. The older one I'm putting on our list or whatever, but you can watch it on Amazon Prime, but it's also free on YouTube, and I'm putting the link in there. Free on Tubi, Pluto TV, Roku. It's also an MGM Plus. But so I watched the older one rather than spending money on the newer one.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Like, you know me, I tend to defend remakes, but with this one, nah, it's fine, but it's not the original. It's not even close.
Yeah.
So-
if it was free, I would watch it. If it's not, I would
Yeah.
be like, but because you have to purchase it, I did watch it free, and it was good. It was good, but you can get better. So
There are actually better Western remakes that we might talk about later. But before we go any further, before Scott gets his next pick, I want to say hi to Tom, Hungry Jerk. How's it going?
hey,
And a lot of people have been talking about, Kurosawa, Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, which basically got me made again, and yeah. So which is all true. Like, Kurosawa basically was making westerns. They just had samurais in them. The samurai and the gunslinger are basically the same archetypal character.
Yeah.
So
Very
in
much
fact,
so.
was it? I think it was the movie The Magnificent Seven that was actually adapted from a samurai movie of.
Seven Samurai.
Seven Samurai.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Samurai,
Yeah.
yes. Almost
So-
scene for scene, actually. Even the characters are the archetypes are very very similar.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite trivia questions of all time: who can name all 3 major film adaptations of Seven Samurai? We already got one. Name the other two.
Oh,
That's a good question. I gotta think
Indy
about
will
that.
get it. I bet Indy will get. So give Indy a second to write in.
Okay, yeah, I'll let Indy do it.
Yeah.
I can think of some TV shows that did it, but not movies. I gotta
There,
think.
there were two other feature films that are directly adapted from Seven Samurai.
A Bug's Life.
Yes, that's one. Yes.
Yeah, that makes
Oh, is it
sense.
really?
It is. It totally
Yes.
is.
Oh,
And there's one more, and you're gonna kick yourself when Indy tells you what it is, because we were already talking sci-fi and how sci-fi loans itself to being adapted from Western.
Battle Beyond the Stars.
Yeah, he's saying it's Battle Beyond
Oh.
the Stars.
Boom.
So it's been
Yes,
Vim,
Battle Beyond
yeah.
the Stars. Rest in peace, John Saxon. But yes, Battle Beyond the Stars.
Dude, Vim has thrown out.
Yeah, he's thrown out a
really,
lot of good ones. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I haven't
like-
put them
like-
all on the screen because I feel like we're going to talk about some of them, but
I don't-
he's got
no,
a
no,
lot
no,
of good stuff on there.
No, even with the war ones, like I was going through and like adding some of the ones that he was like posting and stuff like that, like in our list. Like, oh, this is a good one. You got to watch that one. We didn't get a chance to really talk about it, but so
No, Vim is always like right on the money with movies. Like anytime he mentions a movie I haven't seen, I put it on a list.
yeah, me too, me too.
So okay, Scott, it's your turn.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Goes easy top.
Yeah, no, right. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So, this one actually is from a different perspective, and it's a with a western, and it is "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee."
Good one.
Like that one is, to me, like really kind of like to me actually it's really poignant, and I'm not gonna get too political, but there's a lot of overlap if you like watch this movie and you kind of look at what's happening now. Like, so it stars Adam Beach, August Schellenberg. August Schellenberg is great as Sitting Bull. Aidan Quinn, Anna Paquin, Wes Studi. You've got Gordon Tututsis. Just a huge cast. Again, Lee Turgensen, Patrick St. Esprit, like and a great cast of indigenous actors. It is about the war between the Lakota people, so like your Sioux and the Great Plains, right? And there's a lot that I don't think that a lot of people understand, because one of the things that they did was they would pay people to kill buffalo. And the reason that they were doing that our government did that, like was just giving away money to like people that were expanding into the West, is because that they were trying to cripple the Sioux people, so that we could take their land. And when they finally lost, how we developed these reservations, right? And that's part of actual treaties that we made with them, right? And in those treaties, like this particular incident, which is, and this is based on a phenomenal book and a true experience of what happened. They found gold in the Black Hills, which was part of the treaty for the Lakota people, and the Sioux. And what they said was, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. We're going to sell you land. Like we're gonna readjust your reservation, and the land that we're taking, we're gonna purchase it, and we're gonna give you land that you can grow your crops on. Except the Dakotas are not super great for growing crops because really, really harsh summers, really, really harsh winters, right? And they're like basically, we're ripping, we're gaslighting you, right? And the people that are on their side and trying to do this for the indigenous people, like, are still doing it from a white centric perspective, right? We're doing good, by this. And the whole time you have people that have lived there for thousands, tens of thousands of years, right? They're like, every step you take is on our land, right? And it when they go after the Lakota that are trying to fight back, right? These terrorists that are fighting back against our against the oppressing government. They're like, give us your guns. So they turn in the guns and they're like, no. We know you have more. The reason that we know you have more is because we gave you those weapons so that you kill off the other tribes that were here. Because, basically our government was giving weapons to our enemy to kill off one of our other enemies. And then we knew what we gave them. So when they didn't turn them all in, they started like shooting them down, invading, their homes. And so it's to me, like, this is exceptionally poignant because of even what's happening, currently in the Middle East and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of overlap, right? And to me, it's an important thing from, again, both perspectives, that, again, it's just a lot of violence and hurt, and it's something that to me, it's so poignant because if we, again, the old saying, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. And it seems like we tend to just really, not learn from history. And a big part of it is because we don't acknowledge it. We don't talk about it honestly, right? The Germans, when they talk about like the Holocaust, they talk about where they, made mistakes and they made errors and things like that. And so they all acknowledge like, that, yeah, we were the bad guys. Yes. There was a German comedian, and it's like, why are Germans always like the bad guys? They were talking about like in Die Hard and stuff like that. Why are Germans always the bad guys? And it's like, well, because we did the Holocaust. That's why we're always the bad guys. And so, and it's like, it's just blatantly, right? It's just blatantly honest. Like we are the bad guys. Right. We did a horrible thing, and we accept that, we acknowledge that, and we're growing from that. Right. And so like, in order to grow from something, you have to acknowledge your wrongs, your mistakes, your errors, and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And so, I think that's something that we still like. Here's a fun fact. When did they stop? And this affected the Lakota people the most. So one of the things that they would do, and this movie talks about it, is they would take the children of the indigenous people, and they would strip them of their name, their culture, everything, and their faith. They had to pick out their own Christian names. They had to adopt Christianity, and they were taught from a European perspective, right? What year did they finally pass a law to stop that?
1971.
That's what I would guess. Yeah.
1978.
70s. You weren't
Yeah.
way off. It was the 70s. You got the right decade.
I'm sorry.
Close enough.
No. But no, like 1978. That is our lifetime.
Oh yeah, I was born in
Right?
1978. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like,
I was 11.
right. So like it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, and again, everything takes time for it to happen. And you got to also remember, like, people will bring, there was SA, again, like violence. They weren't actually educated. They were actually more like work camps, because they were forced into labor as children, rather than actually educated in a lot of these schools. Like the abuses, I'm waiting for America to do this, but Canada, has recently found, like, they've started scanning the grounds, right? Because there's so many missing children, and they were finding, hundreds of bodies of children, the skeletons of children at these schools. And as soon as America starts doing that, which again, we have to first acknowledge that we did bad things. But once we start doing it, what we'll find at these old schools is going to be atrocious, right? And so like this movie to me, it's a little bit of a like, hey, we're having fun, let's kill the mood. But it is an important, it's an important, poignant movie. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
a common trope around the world. It's
yeah.
an unfortunate side effect of colonialism. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I read the book. I never actually saw the movie. It was an HBO movie, right? I'm
Yes.
guessing from that cast, it had to be.
Yeah.
But I read the book. There's a Next Generation episode that's actually loosely based on it too, where they have like Native Americans in space. It's really weird. It's not a great episode, but it's got a great Picard speech about the forced removal of people and. But
Picard gave the best speeches. I swear to God.
oh yeah, of course. Like of all the captains, he had the best speeches. I mean, that was his strength.
It was
I
it was
see
the
four
accent.
lights.
Had to be the accent.
Definitely
Well,
the accent helped. Yeah,
Oh, and also the actor. I mean, like, come on, like
Patrick Stewart, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like, you know, classically
Shat-
trained. You know,
Shatner,
You're not-
like Shatner is. There is no way Shatner is giving a speech like.
No, Shatner gives great speeches, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah, right.
He also supported colonialism. If you listen to
Right.
some of his speeches,
Uh,
I don't want to be that guy, but yeah, I don't want to be that guy, but yeah.
and
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
Vin,
because
Vin brings
he
up a
needed
big
to make
point.
babies.
This is definitely a theme of Quigley Down Under, which was a movie I wanted
yeah.
to bring up, but I hadn't actually watched it in a long time, and I didn't get a chance to watch it the last couple of weeks. It's not on my list. But yeah,
it's on my list as just a movie I've seen that needs to be brought up at some point. But
Yeah,
I haven't
it,
watched
like-
it in years. So
spoiler alert: this is going to be a part one. We're not going to have time to cover everything on our list.
Oh,
So
no.
I've got a lot of I've got
Kidding.
movies. I've got tons of movies on my list that I want to watch before I talk about them, but I've got them on the list, and I looked at their Wikipedia just in case, just to refresh my memory, because I know somebody might bring some of them up. So
This one
But
might
yeah.
call for a part 3.
it might, because
Right,
like
yeah.
it's a long list of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I've got like 30 movies on here. So
I know.
one of
keep
them you guys have
thinking
brought
new
up I
ones.
haven't watched yet. So.
But like I said, because the genre was so like just endemic, there's like millions of westerns. Crazy.
And even if you can get rid of the bad ones, there's still tons and tons and tons of amazing ones.
hmm
So yeah.
But no, I mean, I think Scott brings up a good point in that a lot of westerns, a lot of classic westerns kind of skim over this point. There are some that deal with it, but most skim over it. How we treated the indigenous peoples, and that aspect of Western expansion is something that we as a society have to come to terms with on our own. And I think in the modern world, we are a lot better at doing that than we were even 50 or 60 years ago.
Well, we were up in the last couple of years. Now all of a sudden,
We don't need to go there.
I'm just saying. I call them like
You're
I
not
see them.
wrong.
No, no, no.
You're not wrong. But it's just moving on.
I know, and one of the things that I like that I think is interesting, right, is that the battle between the settlers and the ranchers.
Sorry. Channel member Indy Spodes brings up Terror of Tiny Town, which is a movie I used to show my friends in college, and we would not be sober.
Okay, I'm adding these to our list. So
What was that
anytime-
actor's name? The
Billy Curtis.
Billy Curtis. Yeah. One of the greatest little actors of all time.
He did other westerns too, you know.
Oh yeah, he did a lot of movies, man. He's in everything.
But like what I think is always like interesting is like westerns always talk about like the ranchers and then the settlers coming in and it's like, hey, you're taking our land, right? The ranchers are like, you're taking our land, right? And it's this like, we were here first. Like you guys are coming in and you're taking our land. We need this, you know, because we have herds that travel through there and we follow our herds through these lands so that they can graze and our families and our people can survive. And the indigenous people are like, huh,
Do tell.
Good point.
you don't say.
What must that be like?
Sounds terrible, right?
Well, you know.
and but it's this interesting, like this, and again, like you kind of see it, like, and I'm not trying to like get into like a political of what's going on now, but you see that kind of dynamic See, my hands are a little bit different than in our regular show.
Well, that's
But you
because
see-
this is more PG. Yeah.
right. That's right. You see that dynamic of like, this is our home, right? Playing out now, right? We were here first. Well, we've been here, all of that, and kind of stuff like that. Like our grandparents this is where our grandparents grew up, blah, 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 blah. And that kind of playing out. So this is a running theme throughout our experience. And and like, it's something that I think is to keep in mind as, as sea levels
point.
rise and stuff like that, as sea levels rise and everything, and the coasts are crept in and having to move in, and we're going to have more and more refugees, and we're going to have to like start taking people that have massive acres and like
Huge
take
tracts
those from
of land.
people, huge tracts of land, right? And it like and then because we're gonna have to have a place for refugees to go in all kinds of different countries, right? And so then what do we do with that? And the battle that this will play out yet again, right? And so it's just something to hopefully we learn from, which we won't, but like hopefully we'll learn from in the time to come. So
We do in the long run. It just takes a lot longer than we think it should.
the arc of justice is long, the arc of history is long, but winds towards justice.
There you
Is
go.
it okay said?
It does.
Yep. So.
You attributed it correctly. I attributed it to Obama last time.
Oh yeah.
Who was quoting King, of course.
Yes.
He did
Anyway.
say it.
Before we go on, I do want to acknowledge that channel member John is here. He has shown up. He's the one who wanted me to talk about sci-fi and westerns, and like that's what I opened with, so he missed it. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to acknowledge that he's here. Because, he's a channel member and all. I've only got 2 of them. I've got to nurture them. So, whose turn is it?
Who's next?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think it
Yep.
is. Yeah, that's right, because
Yep.
Barry Meyer at Wounded Knee. Good book, by the way. I highly recommend it.
I'm gonna go really off the rails with this one.
Oh no.
Nice.
Yay! Rails!
I'm gonna go with Jodorowsky's El Topo.
Oh my god, we're gonna talk about Hodorowski. Okay.
El Topo, specifically El Topo. I had a friend years ago who was like obsessed with Jodorowsky, and this was his favorite film, and arguably I think it might be his best. It's possibly his most coherent, which isn't saying much. But it's the story of a gunslinger who is in the wake of this warlord who's been going around massacring everyone. And he has this boy who becomes his adopted son because the boy was the only person still alive in this trail of mayhem. And he decided to take it upon himself to kill the warlord and his henchmen. But in doing so, he frees a prostitute who then, for reasons not fully explained, dupes him into ditching his adopted son and becoming the best gunslinger in the West. Which he does, only to find he gets no satisfaction from it. So, to basically atone for his, I guess, hubris, for want of a better sin here, he becomes a Buddhist monk and decides he's going to spend the rest of his life trying to free these people who are trapped in a subterranean colony, I guess you'd call it. And things do not work out well. And it's a really great movie. There's a lot of really astounding imagery, couple of very humorous slams at the Americans. The guy that got to play El Topo is great. There's a couple of amazing reveals over the course of it. And again, the whole thing is sort of like the Old West if it was a fever dream. And I really think anyone who loves Western films should check this film out at least once.
No, I completely agree. And when I haven't seen it since college because that's when I went through my Hodorowski kick. But like, yeah, you're right. Fever dream. It definitely feels like a fever dream. But I think El Topo does have a more coherent plot. You're right. It still has all that surreal imagery and things happening for no really rationally understandable reason. But like, yeah, from what I remember of El Topo, I do feel like there was some poignancy there. That's all I can. That's all I can say because it's all I can remember.
It's actually, you have to really dig just to find other people who've heard of Hodorowski, let alone seen
Well,
his films.
That documentary about his making of Dune really like increased his profile. More people have heard of him at least.
Yeah, but they only know him from that. They've never seen his movies. They just know
Right.
he tried to make one and didn't.
Yeah.
I wish someone would take his notes and make it as like a Netflix limited series.
Yeah,
I
sure.
really
Or
think he had something there.
just wish they'd publish that book.
I'll
Just
take
publish
that.
this book.
I wish I'd put out the second part of Dune while we're on the subject. We haven't even seen Fade Rutha. How can you have part one and not at least introduce Fade
Yeah, there's
Rutha?
all these news stories about how Denis Villeneuve is like is almost finished writing part 3. Part 3? Come on. Anyway,
At least David Lynch got his in the theaters.
I
Put it on the
showed
table.
what's it called? The Holy Mountain. I showed that to some of my friends in college, and I think only one other person made it to the end.
And then, all right, spoiler alert, but it's Hodorowski, so no one's gonna watch it anyway. He pulls a Mel Brooks. I'm like, you sorry son of a bitch. You can't make a film like Holy Mountain and then end it with a oh well. You know? And it's funny because I thought Holy Mountain was great up until that point. I'm like, there better be a payoff here. No, sorry, no payoff. Which is why I don't recommend Holy Mountain. Although I gotta tell you, where they reenact the Battle of Cortez using different species of lizards to represent the indigenous and the conquistadors, I
Right.
thought was brilliant. And I froze.
You
I
froze
made it this
again.
far, at least. Well, I made it this far at least. At least I froze.
Yeah,
in
you're like over an hour
contemplation.
in before you froze. That's like a record.
But yeah, watch the lizard scene in Holy Mountain, skip the rest.
And John brings up a good point. If you're gonna do that Hodorowski's Dune as like a Netflix series, you've got to have the Pink Floyd soundtrack. You just have to.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that was a requirement.
Definitely.
Anyway, I'm guessing our other panelists have not seen a Hodorowski movie, so
No,
I guess we'll move on.
I'm gonna have to watch one now. Though that's
Yeah.
They're a trip, man. Like literally.
sounds like it.
And I said I had to dig deep on this one.
No, I love it.
When they describe
I'm so glad
the
you did.
genre as acid western, you know, that just
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
yeah,
Accurate. Okay, I feel like both of my choices so far have been pilfering from Damien's list, and I see that the third thing on my list is a movie that I already know is on his list, so I'm going to skip it and move on to something
Oh no,
else.
it's okay. You can do. I have tons on my list, so pick whatever you want, man.
Okay, with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and talk about El Dorado.
Nice.
Another
Very good.
John Wayne movie. But this one is Howard Hawks instead of John Ford. And this one, it shows you why you watch a Howard Hawks movie versus a John Ford movie. John Ford is like the serious, epic Western, whereas Howard Hawks deals more with like people and characters and their interpersonal relationships. It's what Howard Hawks excelled at in all of his movies, not just his Westerns. But okay, El Dorado, you've got John Wayne as Cole Thornton, who is basically just a hired gun, and he's going to the town of, I don't even remember the name of the town. But the sheriff there is played by Robert Mitchum. And it's just it's a typical land dispute between two ranchers. One's the good ranchers, the McDonald's, and the others run by evil Ed Asner.
One has the water rights and the other doesn't, and that's
Right,
where the whole
right.
conflict comes
It's
from.
all it
Yeah.
is. It's just a MacGuffin to get the plot moving.
Yeah.
They just have a conflict. And Ed Asner's evil because he's wearing black and he doesn't actually carry a gun. He hires other people to do it for him and all that stuff.
There's
But
a young James Caan. plays
James
this-
Caan,
I
yeah.
forgot he was
James
in
Caan,
that.
he is fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh
It's a
God,
great
Indy, you're
job.
so right. I'm such an idiot. Of course, the town is called El Dorado.
I was like, he threw me for a loop. I was like, wait a second, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
I was second guessing. I go watch it. It's not El Dorado, so I'm not going to say
Because
anything. But then
growing up, this isn't a movie that I watched very often, but my parents would watch it, and I knew the title of it. I always thought it was about like the mythical El Dorado, not the actual city of El Dorado.
Well, he does sing the song El Dorado in the movie.
Exactly,
several
like
times,
it's
so-
several times. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little too many times.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, what makes this movie work for me is really the chemistry between John Wayne and Robert Mitchum. Especially like there's like a half an hour that takes place before, and then the rest of the movie takes place like 8 or 9 months later, something like that. And during that time, Robert Mitchum's character, the sheriff, has fallen in love with somebody and had his heart broken and has become an alcoholic, like a hardcore drunken alcoholic.
All the time drunk. Yeah.
And so John Wayne and James Caan, who plays the young kid character, show up, and they have to sober him up to deal with this conflict that is about to explode. And just that alone is hysterical. And they're
that whole part, I was watching it. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that
No, go
whole
ahead.
part where they make the concoction and everything, I swear was copied scene for scene, almost line for line in Back to the Future Part 3.
it's very similar to Back to the Future Part 3, including the whole drinking gunpowder stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Fucking, it's like put gunpowder in it. It's like, what is he putting gunpowder in that for?
Can you really drink gunpowder?
I wouldn't.
Wouldn't recommend.
Don't smoke while you're doing it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
Right?
really. Just stay away from open flames. Whatever you
That
do,
was always the problem for me, was drinking and smoking at the same time, and it was just
don't-
like,
don't fart near any candles or.
But
don't eat beans while you drink. The
thing I
Blazing
love-
Saddle like episode or scene would be like horrific.
But like I said, the thing I love about this is their interaction. But I also like that the heroes are really, really underdogs in this one, because John Wayne, in a very rare case, is actually injured. Like he's been shot and he's got a bullet lodged in his back. That every once in a while his gun arm will freeze up, and he'll be numb. So he has to deal with that. And then also the sheriff at one point, when he's trying to sober up and he's not quite sober yet, he does get shot in the leg. So he's walking with a limp and a cane. And these two are supposed to save the town from the other fastest gunslinger in the West,
Yeah.
who is like a James Bond villain, scar on his eye, which is great. Can't remember that actor's name, but he's really good in this movie.
Hold on.
Okay, you're gonna look it up while I talk.
What was the name of the character?
I would know it if I heard it. Can't remember.
Oh, okay. It was Christopher George.
Okay, yeah, and, God, what was his name? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Nels McLeod.
Nels. My brain was thinking Nance. I'm like, that's not right. It's Nels for Nelson. Christopher George. Yeah, Warren got it too. Anyway, yeah, I love El Dorado, and I love that basically they go to the final battle completely unprepared because they're all injured, and James Caan barely knows how to use a gun. They give him this like snub-nosed shotgun that you can like, if you aim it at the side of a barn, it will hit the entire side of the barn, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just great. It's a great movie. I highly. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun Western. And I think sometimes Westerns get a little too navel gazing and serious, but this does not do that. This is highly entertaining, and if you just want to watch a Western and have a good time, I highly recommend it.
It's funny. Yeah. It's got a lot of little jokes in it here and there. It's almost poking fun at itself at times.
Kinda, yeah. So that's all.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything else to say about El Dorado?
I always love that scene. Now, Robert Mitchum, kind of took a second fiddle to John Wayne in this film.
Yeah.
And which is sad because Robert Mitchum was a much, much, much better actor. I'm sorry, he was.
He definitely. I'm like, look. John Wayne is the quintessential Western actor, but he's not a great actor. Okay?
John Wayne is playing John Wayne.
Exactly.
In all of the characters he's played, he's always playing himself.
Every time he tries to do something different, like the Green Berets or that movie where he plays Genghis Khan, no.
No, he's playing himself.
But Robert Mitchum, he could play villain, he could play hero, he could play smart person, he could play moron, he had a tremendous range, and this character did have range because, well, he's doing the almost comical Foster Brooks, alcoholic in the beginning, and then of course he sobers up. But the scene where he goes into the saloon, and Ed Asner and his entourage are openly making fun of him. And he goes back to get his gun and he goes, and John, like, what are you doing? He goes, I won't stand people laughing at me. And he goes, you don't understand. They've been laughing at you. You were just too drunk to notice it until just now. And there's that
Right.
scene of, I mean, it's almost a love letter to the 12-step program, because it's like, you just had a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
You've just hit
Yeah.
rock bottom. And it's like, yes, it's like now you actually see just how bad things have gotten for you. And it's just this really powerful scene in a Western.
Yeah.
So I've always loved that little bit.
No,
as well
I
as the whole
agree.
film.
Yeah. And it's hard. Robert Mitchum, he does spend like a good third of the movie either drunk off his ass or horribly hungover. And covered in sweat and dirt, and he's in his undershirt, and he just looks like garbage. Yeah,
I love the scene where John Wayne's like somebody says something about he stinks, and John Wayne's like, he's like, do I need to take a bath? And John Wayne's like, I wish you would.
I would appreciate it. And like he's in the
Everybody
bath,
walks in
and then
with
everybody's
soap.
walking in, giving him soap. Yeah,
Here's some soap, and I brought another one just in case.
In case it doesn't take.
I love that.
It reminds me that there was an old. I'm going to go way off the trails here. There was an old Gilligan's Island episode, and it's the one where they do one of the dream sequences, and Mr. Howell dreams he's an aging prospector, and who finally strikes gold. And he goes to everybody, "Would you believe I haven't taken a bath in 20 years?" And they're all just going to go, "Yes, I would."
Yeah, I would. Yeah, completely. Smell you from over here, bud.
Uh, mercy.
Anyway, Damien, name another movie before I steal it.
Let's see. I'll go with a newer one from 1985. It's not like, a great
Oh.
movie, but it has a very good cast. Silverado.
Yeah, Kevin Costner
Oh,
finally makes his
yeah.
appearance.
Kevin Costner.
Ah,
Kevin
that was the
Kline.
next one I was gonna say.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
No,
man.
that's all right.
All right.
That's
Danny
all right. Go
Glover,
for it.
Scott Glenn.
We could be here all day just naming the cast.
Yeah,
Amazing
Brian
cast.
Dennehy.
Yeah.
It's got
Danny Glover.
Yeah,
Fucking
yeah, exactly.
Jeff Fahey.
Linda Hunt,
John Cleese.
Oh, Linda Hunt is amazing
yeah,
in this
she's
movie.
great in that movie.
Yeah. Jeff
yeah.
Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum. That's the one I
As a
didn't write
bad
down.
guy.
Yeah, as
Jeff
a bad
Goldblum was a
guy,
villain.
Yeah.
As a scummy, two-faced gambler. Yeah.
exactly.
Hitman type.
But yeah, that's good movie. Just some of the acting could have been better. There's a few plot holes here and there, but
You do
overall
plot
it's a good Damien for the block, please.
Because you blocked the
Oh,
Kevin
yeah,
Costner
yeah,
dude.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, and of course. How could we forget John Cleese?
Yes. Oh, and
I
yes,
said John Cleese.
Oh, you did? I didn't hear that.
Yes. Don't listen
Okay.
to me anymore. I'm kidding.
Yeah. But yeah,
Love you.
just overall, good cast, relatively good story. Just you're starting off with guy Kevin Kline. Was it? Yeah, Kevin Kline just getting out of. No, it was. I'm sorry. It was Scott.
It was Scott Glenn just
Scott
waking
Glenn,
up
just
to a
getting-
gunfight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
waking up to a gunfight, and then he, he runs into Kevin Kline in the desert.
Dying.
dying.
desert.
Yeah, just wearing his, what was it, the Union suit or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they used to call it. And he's got the extra horse and everything, so he's like, hey, come along, and then it goes right on into a town, and then another tense
That's where they
exchange.
find. Oh yeah.
Yeah, where he shoots the guy that stole his horse.
Right.
With the falling apart gun. I thought that was, he walks into the store, he puts down like $1, a silver dollar.
What can I
or
get for
whatever.
this?
What
Yeah.
can he's pulling out the shiniest, nickel plated gun he can find. He's like, dude, that's $20. You can't. He takes the guy out with like this dilapidated, falling apart gun. I would be worried about blowing up in my hand more so than, damaging somebody else. gets his horse back, and yada yada yada, and then they go on their their little adventure.
Well, you also have to like meet the villains that you're gonna have
Yes,
to deal
yeah,
with
at the
later,
beginning,
because
yeah.
the story is very like Dickinsonian in that it has to
Yeah.
introduce a whole bunch of characters, and then they have
At
to
the beginning, yeah.
somehow inorganically come back into the plot.
Yeah, so you meet the villains at the beginning, and I got a job for you, kind of things. Oh no, we're gonna do our own thing, and what was the next town they meet the pilgrims, or the settlers, and the people that are supposed to get them to Silverado and whatnot.
Oh, right,
Who
yeah.
then later rob them, and so on, and of
So on
course
and so forth, yeah.
they have to. At some point in there, Danny Glover was in. Yeah, he was in the. He goes into the bar to get a drink, and gets.
Oh,
kicked
that's
out 'cause they
right. I
don't
was trying to
serve
remember
his
how
kind
he
here,
gets introduced into the story.
Yeah, and then they what was it they.
And Scott Glenn just like barely sticks up for him, just does the
Yeah.
bare minimum, and says,
Yeah,
"No,
he's
that's
like,
not how
no,
it
that's
happened."
not what happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and we got who was playing the sheriff in that?
that's John
John
Cleese.
Cleese.
John Cleese.
John
yes,
Cleese
sorry.
was the sheriff.
Yes.
I never
yeah.
much cared for that wood, thank you.
Yes.
You know,
And then they got to go
amazing
break
point.
out.
Oh,
Then,
sorry.
then Kevin Costner's in jail. That's the little brother to Scott Glenn, and they got Kevin Kline gets thrown in there with him because he was he originally wasn't going to break him out, but he gets thrown in there over I can't remember what, but something.
I don't
happened.
remember either.
Something happened, then he gets thrown in
Shot
jail.
somebody in self-defense.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he shot somebody in self-defense. That's right. And of course, that's what Kevin Costner was in there for too, according to him. So, anyway, they both get broken out by Scott Glenn, and then Danny Glover saves them outside of town, and now they're a group of four.
Right.
Yeah, and
It
then
takes
they-
like half
yeah.
the movie for
just
like
to
the
get to
actual
there,
plot
yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the build up.
And then in the end they get to the place that Brian Dennehy who's Cobb, the town it's not Silverado, it was the one before that.
Yeah.
Get to that town where he's got his own little gambling ring, and or he's got his own bar. Andy's the sheriff. They do gambling in the bar, and whiskey and whatnot, and that's where you get Linda Hunt coming into the story, and so on and so forth. And then they find out that, oh yeah, this guy who's the law and all of his deputies are all horrible people who are bought and owned by the local rancher, who's trying to edge out these settlers who are trying to set up farms, and so you get that same settler farm, so you got the movie has a whole lot in it that you see in Western genre. You got the gunslingers, you got the settlers, you got the wagon train, you got the ranchers trying to edge out the farmers, and the wicked lawman that's on the take kind of thing, and you got gambling and so on and so forth. It's just like put it all together into one movie.
Yeah, it's
and that's
kind
what
of
you
like
get
a
here.
greatest hits of westerns put into one
exactly.
movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like it's a feel good western. It's another
Mhm.
one of those that like all the good guys live and all the bad guys die. You should know pretty much right away what the last fight's gonna be and how it's gonna play
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
It's one
It's
of those
Lawrence
kinds of
Kasdan.
movies.
It was a
Totally.
Lawrence Kasdan
It's a
movie, so
very-
of course it's going to
yeah.
be a feel-good movie.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun western to watch. There's some good little bits of humor here and there, and Kevin Costner plays the impetuous little brother, and
Well, I don't know about
Yeah.
Kevin Costner playing like it's very un-Kevin Costner. He's basically
Yeah.
playing. He reminds me of Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid. He's just
Yeah.
just having a blast, and he likes
Yeah.
killing people. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
and he's good at it too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he likes. Go ahead,
there's-
Scott.
There's I'm trying to find it. I'll find it for the in time for the next one. But there was this like little docu-series that I came across as I was like trying to find like some of the westerns to rewatch to update myself and everything. And it's like the sociopaths of the Wild West or something like that.
Yeah.
And it like how these Kevin Costner's character and like Billy Kid, all these guys that are romanticized but are actually like horrible people, right? Like at no point in time would we be like today, you know, this guy's on a mass like this. There's a serial killer, and let's all root for him. Like,
it went the same
I
way
think that's
with,
one
like,
of the things
gangsters.
Unforgiven was trying to get
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
yeah. No,
It's-
absolutely.
And you see the same thing with gangsters in the 20s and 30s. Is, you know, there was
Oh,
a
yeah.
romanticization of what they did and so on and so forth, almost seen as Robin Hoods at time. You know, because they were bringing the people the liquor.
Well, it's a weird part of American psychology. Just, you know, yeah.
Well, who doesn't root for Godzilla? Oh God, I'm the only one.
No, I root for Godzilla a lot.
Yeah, no, I was like, that's a really great point, right?
Oh, good. I was worried for a second. I'm like, oh no.
I'm always rooting for Godzilla. He needs to just
Yeah,
destroy
sorry.
everything.
The only
Everything.
time I think I've ever rooted against him was in this most recent movie, -1. That's the only time where I'm like, holy cow, he's bad.
I still haven't seen this one.
I
I'm
haven't
so
seen
ashamed of
either.
myself.
Got to see it. It is so freaking good.
You're like the 40th person who said, Bob, I am mad at you for not seeing the Go see the movie. Why are you going now? Go see the movie.
It's incredible. It's an incredible movie.
It's like when I told people I didn't see Game of Thrones because originally I didn't have HBO, and they go, "You have to see Game of. I'm going to Clockwork Orange you and make you watch Game of Thrones."
-1 has a much better ending. I'll give you that.
There we go.
But
You know
almost
what?
have to.
Game of Thrones reminded me a lot of watching Lost, where you get so many seasons in and you're enthralled, and you're just, you know, you get to a point where you're just like, you know, I don't want to watch this anymore, but I have to see how it
I have to
ends.
keep going.
Grudge
yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got grudge watching.
Yeah,
The last season was I refer to as lame of groans.
yes, yes.
I hated the last season. I really did.
Yeah.
I hated it, but I had to watch
You and
it.
almost everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
because it wasn't written by George R. R. Martin. It was written by the showrunners, and you know, they just kind of like.
I'm
messed
not even
everything
mad
up.
about like the plot of the last season of Game of Thrones, aside from how they treated the Night King. But we're not talking about Game of Thrones.
No,
I don't mind the plot. But what I minded of the last
fair.
season of Game of Thrones is that it should have been like 4 seasons, not 1 season.
Yeah.
They rushed
Right.
it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
big time.
agree, and that would have given had they taken that effect with each one of the seasons and each one of the books, then it would have given, you know, by the time they get to like season 20, George R. R. Martin would have finally finished that book, and then they could have just built instead of season 8 being like on its own, it would have actually been like had like source material to build off of. So
Anyway, but yeah, we're
Anyways,
not here
so
talking
yeah.
about Game of Thrones.
yes,
Pity. But you're right. Stay on topic, people.
okay.
Stay on topic.
All right, so
They came from
I'm gonna
behind.
bring
Stay
up.
on topic.
So I'm gonna bring up one that
Luke,
I'm
your computer's off.
It's a newer one. It's a newer one that I imagine most people have not seen. It was really, really good. I want to find my link so that I can like talk about all the actors or whatever. But anyways, here we go. It's called Bone Tomahawk.
This is on my list. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, you've seen it?
I have. This is a great movie. And
It is.
holy cow, does it mess you up at the end.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Not
Like
seen it.
it is. It's great. Come on, it's Kurt Russell. All right,
Love it.
Kurt Russell. Like, oh, I think I'm gonna.
You know, that was on
Gesundheit.
that was
It is on
um,
something. I think.
I think it was on Hulu. Maybe.
Yeah, I remember
or-
seeing
It's on
somewhere.
Hulu.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I'll
I-
tell you.
Almost watched it the other night because
Yeah.
I was like, that looks good.
You should definitely
know?
see it. It's
Yeah.
really good.
I'll tell you. Hulu. It's on Hulu. It's free on Tubi, Pluto TV, and or the Roku channel. Because I've got all of those. But no, I mean like I've got like that's what I do here. But you've got Kurt Russell, just like I mean a quintessential like Western act to me. Like I think he does a great job with being a Western actor. And then Patrick Wilson. So basically, what happens is you've got these outlaws that walk through a very savage indigenous group people's a burial ground. Yeah, don't watch it during dinner.
In fact, have an
No.
empty stomach and just
Yes.
yeah.
Little,
Yes.
little on the gory side, I take it.
Oh,
A
and
lot.
so yeah, and
You're not
um,
prepared.
they walk through their burial ground, right? And one of them gets killed. David Arquette makes it to the town.
All right, I forgot it was David Arquette.
Yeah, David Arquette. He makes it to the town, and he looks sketchy. And so the sheriff, Kurt Russell, comes in to ask him some questions and all of that stuff, and was like, you know what, you need to get out of here or whatever. He refuses. Ends up getting they try to take his weapon, won't do it. David Arquette ends up getting shot into the foot. The town doctor, who is played by Richard Jenkins, who is excellent in it.
Absolutely.
So good. And he's the town doctor, but he's been drinking, so they get Lily Simmons to come and take care of David Arquette's foot. And he's got an infection, and so gets shot in the leg. I'm sorry, gets shot in the leg. And so she's got to take care of him and watch him. And because he walked through David Arquette walked through the burial ground, the people track him down and grab him and everybody who's with him, who's where is that actor? He's the deputy. Anyways, I can't find who it is that plays the deputy. But it's Evan Joincat. You're not gonna know him, but he plays Nick, the deputy, and that's gonna be important because that relates to what we're talking about. But anyways, they take him and capture him, raid and capture him. David Arquette, Lily Simmons, and Deputy Nick take him to their cave, where they're incredibly brutal people. So
It's
when
hell. It's basically hell.
And so when it gets discovered, Kurt Russell gathers the town folk to get a posse together to go get them back, and it's Matthew Fox, who's excellent in it. He is so
Speaking
arrogant.
of Lost, yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. He's so excellent. He's so arrogant. And he's the one that's killed a large number of indigenous people, we'll say. And they ask Zahn McLaren, who's in
No spoilers, Gimper.
He's just like laying out the premise. He hasn't even spoiled anything yet.
I'm not spoiling anything. But like Zahn McLaren, who's in a great TV show on FX, where he's a indigenous sheriff. Anyways, but they ask him if he wants to come along, and he's like, "You guys call me savage? No, these are actually savages. We're scared of them.
You don't even know the meaning of the words.
Right, yeah. Like, and it's a good description. And so they go off to try and rescue, and a lot ensues, and there is a death that is
God.
so horrific. Like, I'm literally laying in bed with my wife next to me to sleep as I'm trying to finish this movie, and I get to that point, and I just all of a sudden violently shake. And my wife's like,
Whoa.
"Go to bed." And I'm like, I gotta finish this movie. It was just, it's excellent. It is phenomenal. And one of the best lines, a dying man says to,
Love Sid Haig.
Yeah, Sid Haig's great.
oh yeah. Like a dying man says to, his friend, he goes, "Say goodbye to my wife and I'll say hello to yours." And I'm like, that to me, is just I said that to my wife, and she would kind of rolled her eyes at and I'm like, no. in the context of the movie, it's incredibly powerful. And it's just a really great line, and it's a great movie. I definitely recommend watching it. But again, watch it on an empty stomach, and it's,
people who watch my channel know that I'm fine with gore. I'm not quite a gore hound, but it doesn't bother me. I like it in horror movies sometimes. But this movie, it's hardcore. It's really hardcore. You got to be ready for it.
yeah. Like I think Joe would even go, like, and that's a lot. That's a lot for him. Wow.
That's not what the movie's about. I mean,
Right.
it's there and it's shocking for a very good reason.
Good reason. Yeah, absolutely.
it's not just gore for
into
gore's sake.
Right. It
Yeah.
fits into the storyline, and it builds tension. Right.
Absolutely.
It builds tension for the the ultimate, like the climax of the movie and stuff like that. And like I loved it because everyone had their like Shakespearean, like Patrick Wilson. Like one of the things is Patrick Wilson was a guy. His wife told him not to go on the roof to fix it, but he wanted to do it anyways. Climbs up on the roof, ends up falling off and breaking his leg. Right. And it looked like and it was a compound fracture, which means it goes through the skin, right? And she gets it set and all that, right? And so he is actually hobbled, but and he's a very stubborn person, and his stubbornness, like to rescue his wife, like is like, I'm going to be a part of this, and it's like, freaking really, like, all right, hop along, like. What are you gonna do? But
How
like,
are you
he's
going to help? Yeah.
right?
Reminds
like,
me a little bit of El Dorado there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very similar in
Yeah.
in that respect. That's the only thing these two movies have in common, though.
and but it's this like, to me it just shows some of, like, each of them has like the like theoretical Shakespearean fatal flaw of sorts, right? And where it's like this character trait that is to me it's each one represents a character trait of the Western male, right? And some of them like have and each one has their pros and cons, right? And can be a benefit, but also can be a severe negative. And so to me, it's a really good, like, construct of a movie and everything. So really liked it. Really liked it. Oh, and another one of my favorite lines is, what kills you in the West isn't the droughts, isn't the hardships, it's idiocy. And you're all idiots. And like, I was like,
that was actually a theme brought up in McClintock, which we haven't gotten to, but we'll have to come back to that one another time. So
Yeah, that'll probably be part two. We're almost wrapping it up here.
yeah.
But no,
So that,
yeah, I highly recommend Bone Tomahawk. It's it feels like a typical Western at first, and it basically, the second half of the movie is a horror movie that's set in the West. And I say that not as
movie.
I say that not as a bad thing. Like, it's actually like really, really poignant, and like I said, it does it for a reason.
right.
But I always have to warn people when I talk about this movie that you have to know that going in, or you're gonna lose your lunch.
Yeah. I did not realize that. And I was like, oh my God, like in the middle of like, who's at bed? No, I gotta
This is a
finish
Western, not a horror. We shouldn't be seeing this.
I'm on my phone. It's like, oh my God. Like, yeah, no, but it's great. It's great. And again, it all plays a part. It's for purpose. It builds tension. It builds fear, terror, all that, like of the risk and everything.
Anyway, yeah, let's
Does a
move
great
on.
job. Anyway,
Thrash, you get one last try.
Time for me to do one more? Super,
Yep.
super. This one, I can almost guarantee I'm the only person here who's seen it. And you were just speaking about sort of a Western horror. As you guys know, I love those old, mostly English horror anthology films where there's a number of different stories and a framing device.
Right.
I have found there is one example of Western horror, and it's called Into the Badlands, and it's just that. It's a horror anthology, but all in an Old West setting. Bruce Dern plays the framing device,
Oh,
our
man.
crypt keeper, if you were, who is a sort of solo gunslinger who, every time he bumps into somebody, he's got a story for them. And it's, I want to say there's 4 stories, um, but they as in all anthologies, they vary wildly in quality. Um, you will have your favorites. You will have like, well, that one was okay, but it's worth seeing if for no other reason. It's the only crossover Western horror anthology that I know of to date.
That sounds
To
great.
say it's described as a post-apocalyptic world approximately 500 years in the future.
You can have
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic westerns, man.
I'm
like
not saying it
Mad
isn't
Max,
a western,
come on.
you know,
No,
yeah.
that's a different Into the Badlands.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
Um,
different Into the
That's
Badlands.
a different one.
Isn't
Look
that the
under
TV
Bruce
show?
Dern.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it then.
Yeah, look at.
Is this
look
the
under
one made
Bruce
in
Dern.
1991?
Yes.
Yes.
I love
okay,
Bruce
okay,
Dern.
okay, perfect. Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't
Okay.
mentioned a movie, a western with Bruce Dern in it, because
I know.
he's been in a
He
few.
did a bunch of them. Yeah.
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 But it's very slick, and I highly recommend it if for no other reason than the crossover factor.
No, that sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun. I really want to watch that.
It is a lot of fun, and Bruce Dern is amazing in it. He's
He's
worth
amazing
watching.
in everything.
Yeah.
He's possibly the best part of the whole movie, to be honest with you.
I'll have to
Like an
watch that.
exceptional cast, man. Like
Oh, it's an amazing cast. Very
Dylan
good cast.
McDermott, Mariel Hemingway.
Grim
Good
Prairie
Lord.
Tales.
Yeah, both Indy and Vim brought it up. Apparently, there's something called Grim Prairie Tales. I've never even heard of it.
There's a bell ringing in the back of my head, actually. But yeah, so I will part on part 1 with Into the Badlands.
Good choice. I've never heard of it.
Neither have I. I'll have to watch it.
But I tell you what, let's do part 2 next week instead of 2
Next
weeks from
week?
now, because 2 weeks from now is going to be Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
So let's just go ahead and do part 2 next week, and we'll
Color me in.
probably have a part 3 on New Year's Eve. So
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
That sounds
I like
good.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, and of course, you guys are all invited to join me tonight at 7:30 on my YouTube channel, where I'm doing my
Yes.
2023 wrap up.
maybe this time we can actually talk about 2023.
I know, right? We never get around to it last time.
Also, Thrash, I loved your trivia topic. It was just hard. That's all.
Well, you know what it was. One thing I always forget. I always forget is that not everyone grew up with the same sort of entertainment options that I did. I watched a lot of miniseries. Apparently, a lot of people on our channel didn't. So it just wasn't that much of a fun topic. Even Indy said, "I'm sorry, it's not my cup of tea." So, one thing I have to read into the record though, and this is one of the things that made me think of it in the first place. They did a remake of Shogun. I am
Right.
euphoric over this. Shogun is my favorite miniseries of all time. And the fact that they're making one, and actually making this one, based on what I've seen, it's a little more accurate than the first one. So I am like over the moon. And I think they're actually telling it not through Blackthorn's side. I think the principal character in this one is, and I'm so ashamed I can't think of her name, but the translator he has an affair with. The one who's married to the samurai.
Right.
I think it's told through her story, which is good because I think she has a way more interesting story.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. I read the book in high school. It's been a really long time. And I like the other miniseries, but I'm really excited that they're doing another one. I mean, anything James Clavell put his pen to is worth watching. Yeah.
Definitely.
So anyway, that's it. Like I said before, I do have a review that's going to drop in about 15 minutes. I decided to start dropping them after the live streams for various reasons with the algorithm that I don't need to talk about. Yeah, that's all I got. So me, Damien, Scott, and our friend Joe have a different podcast called
It's an
From Here
interesting
to
name.
Paternity. It hasn't been updated in a while, but we're still doing our live streams every couple of weeks, so check those out. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, we're gonna have one next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Yeah, goodbye, I guess.
Ciao for now.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It was
See you
fun.
next week. Yeah.
and sorry for everybody. Oh,
Oh.
okay, never mind.
Okay.
I was gonna say
Bye.
sorry to everyone. Like I'm over here looking
We're
at,
still
at
here.
these.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to actually look at what people post and add those to our list and stuff like that, so that we can like give credit to people and also like the things that people are bringing up. Add the, make sure that we're including the list where we can. So that's what I'm doing. Why I'm always looking over to the side, because I'm on my other monitor looking up where to watch these and also what people are talking about and where to watch those.
Yeah, and people in the comments, if I didn't mention your comment, it's probably because you mentioned a movie that I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point.
right. So and also any of them, especially like anything where I want to like add to our list, so that maybe one of the next times we can talk about it and stuff like that and bring you all in and stuff. So anyways, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, so this time for real. Goodbye.
Bye.